tonight for Peter Anthony Wakefield, who is a friend of mine in England. He's a Claregate student, probably one of the best esoteric astrologers there is. A lot of good ones in England, a lot of good ones too coming out of Italy and other parts of Europe. So the idea tonight was to give a series of vignettes, which are short, brief looks at the horoscope of King Charles, and also to discuss the esoteric significance of comets and asteroids, of which there's almost nothing written about in the esoteric teachings. So it's going to be a little abstruse. Some of my own thoughts, some of my own investigations, and so we'll. I think what we'll do is we'll start with Charles' horoscope, which is interesting. Peter, my friend Peter Wakefield, put this together and sent it over the internet through one of his websites. And like I said, he's a very accomplished astrologer. There was one of the interesting things about it was, about 5 years ago, I had a premonition about Prince Charles when he became king. And it was confirmed by Peter Wakefield's analysis of the horoscope of Prince Charles, who is now King Charles. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about it tonight. Peter said, and I'll try to explain this in a more simple way. He says that he believes that one of the most interesting features is the fact that he's a Leo with Pluto in the first house. And you see it here at the coronation in London and here in his natal chart.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm just going to read what he has written, and then I'll add some of my perspectives on it. Now we're focused on Pluto and Leo and what it's telling us. One of the things that you do in esoteric astrology is that you pose questions to the higher self in your dream diary, and you wait for feedback. You'll get feedback in the form of symbols, and deeper meanings will come to you. The question was posed at, 8:31 on May 5th, 2023. The accentuation in the dream was of people's heads in caps, tops being blackened from head to toe. He said there was a ceremonial feel, but a funerary slant to it. The knowledge to items were blackened from the church or cathedral and the black smoke from great chimneys. In the course of the day following, whilst watching the coronation on TV, a lot of this imagery was repeated back to visually, and whilst I know the king is well-intentioned and conscientious of the new age, there is a great sorrow and sadness attached. Now, he was just recently, a few days ago, diagnosed with some form of cancer. I don't know if it's prostate cancer, if it's colon cancer, colorectal cancer. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a specific cancer. The king has a natal Pluto in his Leo ascendant, and all of this feedback was fed to me on the strength of this feature, of this one feature, Pluto and Leo in the first. Humanity has a great future, but there are great obstacles ahead and turmoil is ahead. Well, I think we all know that. Yeah. So he wrote down here, what kind of a reign will it be? Symbols for the coronation and the reign of King Charles III. He said that it would be a sorrowful reign, that it would be funeral, casts a pall over his reign. Now, 5 years ago, I had a premonition. I've told you some of my stories about conscious mediumship. And the story I've told numerous times here about the World Trade Towers and how I had perceived that about 16 days before it happened. I think that's what it was. That was more than that. 26 days before it happened. And then the morning that it happened, I had a dream where I had astrally projected. I was out of body and I was over the southern tip of Manhattan above the World Trade Towers. And I saw what looked to me to be 2 tornado clouds.
Wow.
And as I zoomed in with my astral vision, I was about, I would say I was a mile, not more than a mile and a half in the air above the southern tip of Manhattan looking down. And then I zoomed in, as I said. And I realized that what I was seeing was not 2 tornado clouds, but was the devastation of the World Trade Towers, which had just been, which had imploded. There's more to the story. I'll tell you another time. But anyway, I had a similar thing about King Charles. It was really a form of conscious mediumship, where I felt that his reign as King of England would be very brief, very short, by virtue of the fact that he would die, for me, which was some unknown disease at the time. I wasn't concerned with what the disease was, but that I knew that his reign as the King of England would be short-lived. I'll read what he wrote. He sent me a message, and it this corner area down here, there was a lot more things. It's hard for me to read, even as close as I am to it, but this is what he wrote to me with his footnotes, which not all of them are on here. He said, all black, blackened, in blacked out, young woman in a missionary position, covered from head to toe in shoe blackening, little black coverings to things similar to Busby hats, which are the hats, excuse me, that the guardsmen wear. There were smutty effects like charcoal and black powder dust everywhere. The effect of Pluto in Leo is funerary, pomp, and the effect was, it was as a sorrowful reign. And so what he's telling us, and what my premonition was that he's not going to live too long. his reign will be short-lived. And the thing that's interesting is that Kate and William will then take over the throne. We don't know the implications of that. I'm hoping that it'll be really a good thing with salubrious results. Pluto always
So
brings,
you think there's still gonna be a month?
well, that's a question.
Yeah,
Yeah, how long will the monarchy last?
yeah.
See,
That's what,
and that's something that people more and more are beginning to
Doubt.
question and doubt and
Mhm.
wonder about. We're not getting off to a good start here with King Charles and his horoscope. The history behind kings and queens is immense history, and it has its origins in anthropogenesis, where if you read The Secret Doctrine and other books like Baker's book Anthropogeny, where they talk about a myth that is common in the world today, is the myth of intelligent beings from other planets helping to seed and populate the planet. And that story, that ancient aliens, you can watch it on TV at night until you're completely nauseated by it, is a reflection of the esoteric truth of the intercession of the Nirmanakayas, who came from a Venusian chain within our own solar system. And because the crude primitive human types had reached a brick wall where they couldn't evolve any further, because the cranial structure of the skull was actually caving in and growing into the brain. And they had come to an impasse. And so the Nirmanakayas, or the what they call these higher beings, the Manasaputras, sons of mind, Blavatsky called them sons of mind, were in etheric form, and they were able to interbreed astrally, astral forms, I guess is maybe a better way to say it, with the evolving female types, and change the course of human evolution through this process. That's an interesting thing to think about, because if you read the Bible story of Jesus, he was the product of some angelic relationship between this angelic being, or God, and his mother, who became pregnant. And so it gives credence to the idea of an immaculate conception. See? So anyway, the idea of a monarchy and keeping the crown, a lot of very esoteric people that I know say that the crown should be preserved, because it is reminiscent of the occult, the esoteric belief of the Nirmanakayas, or the Manasaputras, and their relationship to mankind, of being of a superior order and being able to alter the course of a human evolution. And I know Baker, and it's interesting that it has happened.
But it turned dark.
What?
But it turned dark.
Yeah, well, it ain't over yet. So,
I agree, it's not over yet. So the crown could potentially be what it is meant to be. But
Mhm. Yeah. So anyway, I remember Baker talking about not going metric. And of course, here in the United States, we still use the, foot in inch foot yardstick measurement, whatever you want to call it, inches and feet, miles, and not non-metric ways of measuring, which were established by the royalty. They used the measurement of the king's hand or arm was a measurement. And it evolved into what it is today now, where 12 inches are a foot and 36 inches are a yard, and so on. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be up to the people of England to decide, whether it stays or whether it doesn't. I don't see it as a bad thing myself. I don't see it as that.
No.
But a couple of things that I wanted to talk about the Pluto effect. I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to go back to this for a minute. The reign of King Charles III, he wrote in his diary, my friend Peter Wakefield, blackenings, shades, and dealing with shame, Prince Charles, dealing with shame, which I've always said, when Diana died, the grief was immense. And Baker said that the grieving masses from around the world who were purging themselves emotionally of Diana and wanting a piece of her, a memory of her, consumed her astral body. Had completely consumed her astral body. And as the hearse went through the countryside, she was in her etheric body and was standing erect, almost as a soldier, standing at attention, following the vehicle in her etheric body. The astral body had been consumed by the millions of billions of the grieving people around the world.
She didn't need it anyway, though.
He said that she would be one of only a few saints to be recognized in the 21st century. Would be Princess Diana and one or two others out of the next 100 years or more, the entire millennium. I remember Douglas Baker saying in 1981 something of Prince Charles having a pharaoh connection, possibly a previous life. And this came to mind when writing these notes. And atavism, we've talked about atavism, where things from the past come into our present life, always coming around again to color and imbue character and incarnations. Glory is always attached to a Leo ascendant, and of course royalty. And when Pluto is placed in Leo, there are many permutations. I'm going to give you some examples of permutations of Pluto. There are many permutations to consider. The ones mentioned in the notes are likely to come as a theme to the reign, and the combination has been thrown up by the collective unconscious into the net of the sleeper. You know, the Indians have dream catchers. You know, he's talking about your building a net where you can capture your dreams and remember them. And the Indians called it the dream catcher. So they were perceiving these archetypal symbols of for remembering dreams. I have one in my bedroom on a tall lamp next to my bed. it has meaning to it. It's interesting. I remember talking about this in a previous lecture. It's been a couple of years ago about Whitney Houston. Remember Whitney Houston? And she had a predominant Pluto aspect in her horoscope. Pluto, the dog, Baker always used to say in the Disney cartoons and films, Pluto, Pluto the dog. And Pluto is a planet that rules dogs, and it rules the mistreatment of human beings and treating them like dogs.
Oh, wow.
Now, we had a young woman who I didn't know her real well. She was trying to help me with some issues with lectures over at Ann Arbor. Was it called the Crazy Wisdom Bookstore?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Gail Schmidt. Does anybody remember Gail Schmidt from the Mayflower Bookstore? She had an unusual aspect in her horoscope. And I'm going to show you how the astrology works. If I remember correctly, it was Libra and Pluto in the fourth house, the house of death, the fourth house. Libra and Pluto in the fourth house. I'm going to draw this out. Does anybody remember the story of Gail Schmidt and what happened to Gail Schmidt? It was, there's certain things that I can't tell you about what happened, what led up to it, because they're very personal to me. In esoteric astrology, we say that Libra rules vehicles. It's predominant in my horoscope. I designed automobiles for General Motors. And you could, if you were a good student of astrology, you would look at this and you could say, well, this is like a wheel opening of a car. So you could put a tire in there, a tire. And this is the road. And she had Pluto, Libra and Pluto, in the fourth house. And so I was explaining this to, what's her name down at the bookstore? Susan, you know Susan? Susan. So anyway, Susan said to me, well, what caused it? Like she wanted to know. And you can't figure it out with exoteric astrology, with mundane astrology, but you can figure it out with esoteric astrology. And so what happened was she was crossing 11-mile road at Woodward, and a guy who was 6 times higher than he was supposed to be from smoking pot, driving a garbage truck, hit her and killed her, and drug her body 150 yards down 11-mile road before he was stopped by screaming people and whatever. Now, we all know what a garbage truck looks like. And it has the fork lifters on the front. And it has a cab that the driver sits in.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
And it has a similar shape to it of Libra.
Oh, that's wild. Wow.
And that's a garbage truck. This is the highest manus available to mankind at this time. This idiot that was driving this garbage truck up here, the cab.
That's karmic. I guess it's just
Violent
destiny.
karmic.
Yeah.
Hit her, and these, whatever the forks were, that she got somehow caught up in these forks down here. They were in the up position, of course, as he was driving, but drug her, this poor, unfortunate woman.
Well, to be hit by a truck, a garbage truck, it was probably pretty instant.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. He ran the red light and hit her and killed her. She was crossing 11-mile headed south on the west side of Woodward. And there's a bench there that's dedicated. There's like a little tiny park area that
Oh,
was built
wow,
for him.
that's-
Yeah.
But you can
Tragic.
see the symbolism of Libra and Pluto.
Mhm.
You can't get any more obvious than that. And of course, when I told her this, Susan, I don't know if she understood it or not. But that's the symbolism of Pluto here, Pluto.
Does Prince Charles Pluto have, oh, it's not in his fourth house.
It's not in his fourth house, but it's in his first house, and it points the direction to the soul. And it may be that his soul's purpose is complete.
Yeah.
So he got the crown, and he won't be in there too long. I can't tell you how long, but it won't be long. So, what time is it? It's 8 o'clock. So whenever you think of Pluto, I don't get good vibes from Pluto stuff. We all have it to some degree or other in our horoscope, and unless your karma is maybe in the 11th house and it's ruled by Jupiter, and it would be benign. It would be benign karma. Baker, he'd look at some horoscopes. I've seen him do it. He'd hand him a horoscope. He'd grab the horoscope and he'd look like this. And he'd set it down. And
Whoa,
he had all of the imagery there.
whoa.
And I remember one time, he said, this was his comment on the horoscope. He said, Magoo. And he used an economy of words as the masters do and the Nirmanakayas do. Remember Mr. Magoo?
Yeah.
And Mr. Magoo would get himself in these, and then somehow he'd be in a bad situation, and then he was able to escape it.
Mhm.
Well, there are people who have Magoo in their horoscopes. I have something similar to it in my horoscope because of my karma in the 11th.
David, so, quick question. So if you looked at anyone's fourth house, would you be able to possibly predict what would be the cause of their death or?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
show you something that'll blow you right out of that
Okay.
chair. If you looked at my daughter's horoscope, my daughter was killed in an automobile accident by a group of screaming nitwit 16-year-old girls who were speeding down a highway that has one stoplight for 50 miles, and they ran the stop and broadsided the car my daughter was in. So my daughter in the fourth house has Gemini and Taurus. And Gemini is 2. It's many things, but
Yeah,
it's the twin towers.
Yeah.
yeah.
2, the Roman numeral 2, the number 2.
The twins.
It's twins, it's 2 things. And so it was in her fourth house, it was Taurus and Gemini. And the car my daughter was in was a Ford Taurus. And the car that hit her was a Ford Taurus.
So there's 2.
Oh,
Oh,
my. Wow.
Yeah.
It's
You see,
crazy.
this is powerful stuff.
Right.
And when Baker says it's the highest mental plane
Sure,
that there is
yeah.
available at this time on the planet, you better believe it is. I've experienced it. And it is powerful stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Brilliant.
so asteroids and comets. We're going to talk a little bit about asteroids and comets. I wouldn't say it was a premonition, but I had an awareness. And the awareness was that just a few days ago, on the 31st of January, an asteroid came within 11 million miles of the Earth. what do asteroids and comets mean? What do they do? What is their job? And what their job is that they are used by immense beings to bring change into the world. I believe that comets bring supercharged ray energy, and that comets bring necessary change into the world at appropriate times. Now, I've told this story, we've beat it to death, but we need to bring it up again for tonight's lecture. And that is that the spiritual hierarchy of the planet is meeting on the Wesak Festival of 2025, around the 6th of May, in that first week period of May of 2025. Baker told me that before they could institute the plans of the spiritual hierarchy, that there would have to be certain things would have to be corrected, resolved, problems would have to be resolved. And one of the major problems, I've told you this before, one of the great concerns of the Mahachohan, who is the leader of the spiritual hierarchy of our planet, the Mahachohan is concerned with animal cruelty. Now, you have to read something into that. If he's concerned with animal cruelty, then he must also be concerned with things like child cruelty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Child sex trafficking. And Baker said to me, all that has to be cleared up before the masters, the Nirmanakayas, wherever the Buddhas and the Christs are that attend these meetings, that it will have to be cleaned up before they can implement the plans. I believe that the asteroid of January 31st is bringing the energies that will bring truth to the surface. I can see it happening. It will bring truth to the surface, and it will ground itself in billions of people around the planet. It may already be happening, but certainly it will intensify over the ensuing days and months. It'll become more noticeable. So keep an eye out for that. Comets, there's almost nothing written on this. If you go through Blavatsky and Bailey, Bailey is so vague in her descriptions of it. She says that it will take on a greater meaning when people develop etheric vision, that the asteroids and other bodies will have a more significant meaning. I'm not sure how to interpret that, but that's what she said. And I'm okay with that. Comets, I believe, are vehicles that are used by immense beings to supercharge ray energies. Everybody's heard of Halley's Comet. We used to call it Halley's Comet when I was a kid. And Mark Twain himself, I had some notes on Mark Twain. He was born at the time of Halley's Comet in 1835, and he died on Halley's Comet in 1910. So I'm just going to read these little notes I made on it. Mark Twain was born on November 30th, 1835, 2 weeks after the perihelion of Halley's Comet. That's when it's closest to the sun. I came in with Halley's Comet, Mark Twain commented in 1909, and it's coming again next year. The Almighty has said, no doubt, that there are these two unaccountable freaks, meaning Mark Twain and Halley's Comet. And they came in together and they must go out together. And lo and behold, he died on a day after the point where Halley's Comet was closest to the sun.
Yes.
He died on April 21st, 1910, one day after the comet had once again reached its perihelion.
Huh.
It reached its
What's
closest
perihelion?
point, closest point to the sun.
I love that.
Yeah. So if you think of the world, especially in America, because he was such an American icon, extraordinary man, filled with wit and wisdom. In 1835, he was born. He was a riverboat captain. He got his name Mark Twain because they marked the depth of the water in the river. He had to know how deep the water was because the boat could get stuck on a sandbar in shallow water. And they would yell out Mark Twain. And it had a measurement. I think that a Twain was in 12-foot increments, something like that. But anyway, so he liked that name, and then he adopted it as his pen name, Mark Twain, and left the riverboat business, went to California, and began to write, and lived a really very, very interesting life. So I'm expecting, it seemed like there was a comet fairly recently. Somebody on the internet asked me about comets, maybe within the last year or two. I'm surmising. I don't know for sure. Maybe I'm using my minuscule conscious mediumship abilities. I like to think that's what it is, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense to me about comets and asteroids. And I am concerned about this asteroid, and I believe that what it's bringing in reality is a day of reckoning. And once its energies are really start to be felt, it'll be warp speed and things will change very rapidly in the world. And if 2025 is to be a success with the spiritual hierarchy, Shambhala forces,
We're gonna need some asteroids.
we're going to need, we may need
We need a quick reckoning.
a few more asteroids. Right? So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll know certainly by May of 2025. It will be interesting to see what happens between now and then. So keep that in your memory, memory bank for future considerations. Okay, I don't. Does anybody have any questions? Covered a lot of material in a very an appallingly brief period of time. It's a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, we don't know what his death. I'm not wishing him death,
No.
but I got to be realistic about what I've experienced concerning him.
What's he have in his fourth house?
And what my friend, he's got Mercury, and looks like Vulcan. Mercury and Vulcan. He's got Libra on the. He's got it on the cusp. And so we'll see.
Well,
Yeah,
I did hear on the radio that they said that he previously had the prostate, but whatever he has now is something different, but
Yeah.
they didn't say what it was.
yeah.
So it
I
is,
know.
Metastasized.
Yeah, I know when I first heard about it, I just felt like he's not gonna live, he's not gonna live a long life with
No.
his mother.
No.
That whatever this is,
Be the
he doesn't,
exact
he doesn't have like a lot of time left, like it's gonna take him down,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Well, it'll be big news,
Yeah,
and you're hearing it here first.
right, and then the son and. Kate
Twenty
will step
55
right
South
up.
Britain.
He doesn't have to wait long. It's weird, and then the other son, he's gave up his title, so it's interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
Tracy.
I don't know a lot about like the astrology, you know, like what's going on right now, but one of the groups I'm with was talking about Pluto is coming in big right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's in the chart of America's horoscope.
Yeah.
Ah.
And but they were talking about the alignment or something, and this new moon right now is big deal, the Aquarius. new
Tonight.
moon. Tonight, yeah, this is like, for some reason, it's some sort
Powerful.
of shift or something going in.
Mhm.
Like I said, I don't know much about it, but what they were saying is they said, well, what can we expect from whatever's in the sky right now with this Pluto thing? And Aquarius and all that kind of stuff. He said, well, let's just put it this way. The last time that the planets were aligned in this way was 1776.
Right, the American Revolution, the
And-
signing of the Declaration
Right.
of Independence.
And the in France when they
Revolution.
French Revolution,
French
so all the
Revolution.
big stuff. And Pluto's very explosive anyway,
Mhm.
right?
It is.
And so we're really coming into, like you said, whether it's asteroids, comets, everything's
Mhm.
kind of happening
Mhm.
all at once.
That's right,
So,
that's right.
Wow, 17,000.
yeah, I mean, so who knows?
Yeah.
well, I
Go ahead.
But it could be fantastic too.
Yeah,
It could be a
I believe it will be.
yeah.
It's gonna be chaos. He says that in his notes, that there'll be something good that will come out of it.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Many
think
good
people are
conflicts
gonna
and
rise up
rejoicing.
all around the
I
world.
think so. They
People
are.
already
They
are
already
rising
are.
up and saying, we're not gonna do this anymore.
It
know?
started way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the transparency is just
oh, yeah, no.
perfect, you know, like, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
no matter what they're saying, I mean, it's like you're saying, that, you know, my hand is purple, but really it isn't, you know, like people know. It's
Yeah, one of the things that's most obvious to me is when you turn on the television and the battle that's taking place down on the border is bringing out, is a product of fourth ray energy. The fourth ray is coming in very powerfully. And so is ray 3 and ray 7, but ray 4 will bring up the issue of, which it was in 1776. The issue was states' rights versus federal rights. So who has jurisdiction over the Texas border? Does Texas have it, or does Washington DC have it? And the answer to the draining of the swamp, the fourth ray will make it happen, no matter what. It's going to be decentralized government.
For sure.
The states will take back power to themselves and be their own bosses, and the swamp in Washington will get drained in that way. Amen.
Amen.
Not soon enough, right?
Yeah, not soon enough. That's right.
Right.
But it's coming. It's
I
coming.
believe it is.
And this next year is going to be a really critical year. I contend is because of the fact that the spiritual hierarchy is involved. And that means externalization, you know,
Oh, yeah. this
And,
next year's gonna be so
and how they will
nuts.
help shape and change things along with the discipleship of the new age. The world's full of disciples. We're all disciples here of a new age.
Well, David, Don and I were talking this morning about Tucker Carlson's interview with President Putin of Russia. And I haven't seen it, but Don has. But Putin was saying that there's a lot of Nazism in the Ukraine,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's trying to clean that up. But very little known about it in the western part of the world.
Yeah,
Denazification.
Has anyone else been following that interview?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It was just,
Yeah.
just
Sounds
exquisite. I found all of it just delightful. Just to listen to him, he's
Yeah.
so brilliant.
But I think, still it was, Tucker is not a politician. He
No.
reports on it, but
No,
I think Putin played him a little bit.
Putin played him like a
Yeah,
freaking
of
master.
Well, I know.
He is a master.
Yeah,
No, I mean, he played him like a master, like, and it was okay. It didn't matter.
Well,
It still worked out beautifully.
But he was at least coherent, Tucker Carlson wouldn't interview Biden.
Of course not.
That would be an impossible, thing.
Never allow it.
yeah, Biden
They
wouldn't
would never
allow
Yeah. Also, we were, Gail and I were looking at the program the other night, or the other afternoon, about we had the Declaration of Independence in 1776,
Mhm.
but they continued to fight the Revolutionary War until 1781,
Exactly.
because it took
That
a long
many
time to
years.
get rid of the British
That's right.
troops.
That's
and
right.
They had all sorts of, they had some commander that was in charge of the Revolutionary War for
So many
England.
people don't
He
realize
was,
that.
his name was Clinton, and he stayed up in New York City, camping out with somebody else's wife, while, was it Cornwall?
Yeah, Cornwallis needed help.
Yeah,
He
he
just
was
let
running
them
around
go.
all over the South, trying to catch the, revolutionary soldiers down there. But it took quite a while for him to finally, Washington to get victory over the British.
Mhm.
And they
Yeah.
cornered Cornwall, and that was,
I think it was like 7 years of continued fighting before it finally finished.
76 to 81 or
Oh.
82, something
Oh,
like
there
that.
you go. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just had in my head 7 years. Yeah.
Okay, but
So there you go.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it didn't, that wasn't as fast as what it's probably gonna happen this time.
I hope.
I hope so too, Randy. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
But it could be, just like you said, David, by 25, we gotta really get a solution for the human trafficking and
Well, so
all sorts
much.
of stuff. But
Once it's fully exposed, things will just happen.
I don't think we want it to be fully exposed. It's pretty an ugly thing.
Yeah, I
It's
think
been
it
going
needs
on
to be.
under the guise of civilization for ages.
Did you hear about the Lyft drivers had to go through some sort of a training for the Super Bowl this
How many people
weekend
are on
for
Four.
to be,
To
so
make sure there's no traffic.
they
Or to
can
see
know the
kids.
signs of human trafficking, who's getting in their car and stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Cause they, they check
Oh,
so many
that's right.
kids at that
Yeah.
event.
Oh,
especially now.
yeah.
Think of how many they got from coming through the border.
Right, and how many millions or what, I mean, I don't know how many are going to the Super Bowl and
Yeah.
it's crazy, and so they said that they are giving the Lyft drivers had to go through a training.
That's
on
good.
how to
That's
know
great to
this.
hear.
Yeah, but are they
The
gonna
people that, and so they
report it?
could report it.
Will they?
Sure, something.
I don't know, but-
Here's $20 more for the ride.
No,
No. That would.
I don't know. Here's 200, no. But it's an ugly business. It is an ugly business.
Something, I will pick it up later.
yeah, I like the idea of the comments and the asteroid because like to me, like it's like I'm like you, like this fight isn't over. And even like say Trump gets in or even Jay Raskin yesterday is like, or day before, when with the whole Supreme Court thing saying, oh, even if they, keep him on the ballot and it's, 7-2 or 9-0 or 8-1, it doesn't mean he's going to be qualified to be president based on the new Congress that's coming. So potentially he said, basically, the next Congress that they're been working on to try to get, Democratic control of the House, they won't accept the electoral votes next January.
Well, a lot
Like
of that
that's,
stuff,
the point is,
Well,
like, they're not gonna stop fighting.
Mhm.
Even after, say, he gets elected and they go into, we're not gonna accept those elections because he's not qualified
a
to
lot of
be
that
president.
media logic
because of-
is to distract.
No,
you.
but I'm just saying, but
And,
Jamie Raskin is not, he's right up there doing I'm not
Right.
saying he's the only one, I'm just,
Oh, yeah.
that the
and-
fight isn't ever, it's not gonna stop just because.
But it's a spin, it's a distraction, a lot of that reporting. It's from mainstream media, right?
But you see what they just did, what
I don't want.
Colorado
Yeah.
just did, they had to go to the way to the freaking Supreme Court just to get on the ballot.
But
That's not spin.
But they can't take you off of that.
Well, I know that
This
it's
is-
not going to, but
Okay,
my point
whatever.
is like the fight isn't
It's a-
gonna, it's just gonna continue until, I don't know when.
Well,
So
don't
I'm
let-
looking forward to some comments. and
Don't
some-
fill your mind up with a fight.
Aren't
There's
you
a-
glad
they're
people
wearing
are fighting it?
themselves.
Otherwise he wouldn't be on the ballot. So I'm pro-fight.
I'm not-
Well, what if Trump didn't fight? Okay, well, I'm not on the ballot.
No,
then they
I'm
can-
not saying Trump, I'm saying the media has got all these different perspectives, and it's like, who's got the biggest imagination as the top news guy? But, anyway.
Yeah, well, I told you what Baker told me. This is 14 years ago. He said that the executives that control the news, those guys are all involved in the pedophile thing. They're all involved in it. And many of the politicians were compromised by Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
And there was a very unusual thing that happened. I wish I could say exactly when, 5 days ago, maybe 4 days ago. Megyn Kelly, remember Megyn Kelly? Megyn Kelly, well, she said she believed that she had proof that Jeffrey Epstein was alive. And she said it on her news program that he was alive. Now, that throws a whole new monkey wrench into everything.
Mhm.
And it may be that he was taken out really for protection
Yeah,
to testify.
yeah, hopefully.
There may
That'd
be
that'd
some
a
good
dream
guys
come true.
left, but she said that it would, in this interview, it was her talking, is that,
That information's been around, so.
yeah, it'll be revealed soon. So we'll see. But we're living in a time where, and anything is possible. It's just the world is changing so dramatically. And it's all part of the coming Aquarian age. So I think it's 8:30 right now, so we've run an hour, and we'll say goodnight to our friends in the Zoom meeting.
They have a question.
And yeah, well, we'll give them a chance to ask questions. Anybody on the Zoom have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I enjoyed your meeting tonight. Very educational.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Anybody else? That was Nancy. She's one of the dedicated followers. And Amira Shapiro, are you there, Amira? Yes.
You're on mute.
Okay. Mute, yeah. Okay, well, let's call it a night, and we'll meet again on the Friday closest to the full moon. And I want to wish everybody a happy new moon.
So what day would that be?
What?
2 Fridays from now.